say, really got down into the dirty stuff. It's like we really talk about how garbage collectors do all the things where pay more. It's like see the doctors, they just say study all the time. They never say much about anything else. Like study only, that's it. That's what I think.
Alright, okay. Farid, anything based on what you observed?
Both teams have given really good points. Like for instance, this group has said that prevent disease the first thing, then saving life.
Oh yeah, I love you, Judge.
However, they give not so much points as a proposition, and because they explain more about responsibility, and you cross-reference between life and money. With life, you have to be paid more. I understand that point.
Oh, I hate you, Judge.
Okay. Hang on.
Yeah, I think both proposition and opposition did well in making their points known. What I'd like to ask of the proposition is, one of you stated a point that says the doctors have a life in their hands when they're doing operation. When it fails, the person will die, then you can't pay a life back, right? Then I was thinking, if garbage collectors don't do their job, or they don't get paid well for their job also, then if they don't go and collect garbage, wouldn't that also lead to death, lives that are lost? So I think it's quite contradictory.
Woo!
Okay, now let's have the judges. Okay, let's have the judges raise their pointers. Yeah. Okay. Bernice,
I agree the point that the garbage collector should be paid more because people don't want to be a garbage collector because of face. So personally, I feel that if the point that they say they should be paid more to be a garbage collector is very relevant.
any other pointers?
Okay, personally, I think that both sides did very well. They gave up very relevant points. Then I felt that the opposition a bit sidetracked, but then they brought it back, so it's quite alright. Then the opposition, they all just keep elaborating on the education part, so it's like more over the same point. Yeah.
I felt that group, right? It's very good for them out of them that they can actually come out with such points, because for me I think it's quite hard to actually debate on this. But then for this group, I felt that your stand was very clear that yes, garbage collectors are very important, but then doctors should be paid more than the garbage. So it's a very clear stand. Yeah.
Okay. So among the judges, I'm just wondering, how would you all decide? Okay, if it comes down to a vote, right? I'm quite sure you all have decided one way or another in your mind, right? Who should be the one? Okay. Okay, I guess one way is having a unanimous decision, but I guess in the interest of time, can I ask, okay, of the judges here, who would think that based on argument, okay, based on the strength of the argument, the proposition wins the argument, based on the strength of argument? And who thinks based on the opposition?
Let's vote.
Okay, for the opposition. For the opposition.
Woo! Woohoo!
Okay, now I'm going to hold you back. Okay, listen. Now, let me just try to give my 5 cents worth. Okay, now I think in many ways, yes, both sides have tried to focus on some of the arguments. Yes, here and there the argument got a bit emotional. That happens, always happens. Right. Now, I think there were a few pointers. If you notice, what we've done, you're basically arguing about the importance of a job. Right? And when you argue based on the importance of the job, in many ways you're arguing along the functionalist perspective. Right? So I'm hoping that if you do do that, perhaps make a link between what you learn in sociology and some of your so-called more day-to-day layman arguments. Right? Well, I felt that could have been, to me that is in fact that's probably the main point there, and I felt that main point could have been elaborated further by both sides. For example, I know this group did well in terms of trying to highlight the fact that the complexity of the doctor's job is actually more complex. Okay? The job is actually more complex than the opposition, than the garbage collector. Now, at the end of the day, we can argue till the cows come home. The reality will be the garbage collector is paid less than the doctor. What is it? Okay? Yeah. Okay. Question is, but I guess the question for us to reflect on is, maybe the issue is no longer whether the doctor should be paid more or the garbage collector is paid more. But the question is, even if you agree and even the reality is the doctors are paid more, the question is how much more? Right? Maybe the real issue is the gap rather than the fact that it's a difference. See, because this is what the functionist perspective doesn't really address. For example, I think there's something which I thought you could have raised was this. Now, it is true some diseases are caused by hygiene factors, but you could have raised the fact that not all diseases are caused by hygiene factors. There are many lifestyle diseases that are not caused by hygiene factors. Having a clean, hygienic environment does not prevent people from falling sick through your lifestyle disease, heart disease, liver cancer, whatsoever. Right? So in some ways, it is true that how complex your job is, okay, kind of like determines how important it is. So I think to me the acid test would be this. If suddenly the doctors go on strike for 1 month, Singapore-wide, okay, let's see what's left of the society. Or the garbage collectors go on strike for 1 month, what's left of society? Maybe that's the real acid test. Of course, I hope none of us go there. None of us go that way, right? But that's one way to see how important it is to the functioning of the society. And maybe from there you can look at it. Right? Now, but back to my point about, I think the real issue is if you try to look at it from the functionist perspective and the conflict perspective, okay, I think you have been able to put together a debate that has a few more pointers. Now, to me, you could have been arguing based on, if you argue based on the fact that it's the issue of a gap. Now, the average garbage collector will collect probably get about 1,000 a month. Okay? If you're a general practitioner, you're probably 10,000 a month. Right? Okay? So I guess if you take the argument logically, you got to ask yourself, is the doctor 10 times more important than the garbage collector? Right? You see, so you want to take the argument, you got to take it kind of like follow through, and then you see, is the argument correct or not correct? The other point I want to highlight to us is this. At the end of the day now, doctors have doctors' medical associations to protect themselves. Okay? And you notice for a long time, doctors, there's a control over the number of foreign doctors. That's why you go and see, many of the doctors are not foreigners. Many of them are locals. Okay? Now, the medical profession, the association is able to have their say to control the number of doctors coming in, the number of doctors to be trained. When you do that, automatically you can keep your pay high. But what happens when we don't have enough garbage collectors? We outsource. Right? But if you don't have enough doctors, we don't outsource. So this is where you ask yourself, from a conflict, this is where a conflict perspective will help you explain it. Because from a functionist perspective, you cannot explain it. From a functionist perspective, you should do the same, right? Shortage, nobody want to do outsource. Okay? In fact, today, if you have any friends who are doctors, if you know of family friends who are doctors, they will tell you there are not enough doctors. Okay? They will tell you there are not enough doctors. They say, oh, very shocked. I got friends working in polyclinic, they feel their production line. You've seen doctors at polyclinics, they have to finish seeing you, they must clock in the amount of time because they want to track how much time the doctor takes in seeing you. Doctor cannot be taking half an hour to see you. You see? So they want to track this. But if you ask the doctor, how about I get all foreign doctors, they'll say no, don't want. And then the reason why, say you bring all these foreign doctors in, my pay will go down. Okay, so from a conflict perspective, the doctors who are the elites control put rules and regulations in to control the resources such that they will continue to have high pay. Can you imagine having an association of garbage collectors say, no, don't want. Okay, must keep the pay high, we lobby for high pay, don't bring in any more foreign workers and all this. Then go on strike, then don't collect rubbish and all this. Can you imagine that? It probably will not happen because as a group of people, they don't have the political or the means to exercise that. Right? Something else that you might also want to take note of is that within the okay, suddenly I lost my train of thought. Okay, but if you look at in this case the professions, the garbage collectors and the doctors, essentially, okay, this is what I want to say. If you look at it from another way, today bus drivers, look at people who operate transport. Okay, if you can look at it, a bus driver, you probably don't think very much of a bus driver because they know it's a bus driver. You look at a pilot and a bus driver actually the same. One is just moving up in there, one is moving down here. In fact, some people argue the pilot's job very easy, just go autopilot, sleep. Just take off and land, take off and then because in the sky, autopilot. But between the two groups, it's very obvious who has the power. It's easy for pilots to go on strike. Okay? And pilots many times they go on strike because they say, oh, I cannot fly more than how many hours a week, I'm very tired. And that's what they do. No? Every now and then France strike. Say, you're overworking me. Okay? But chances are the bus drivers themselves don't have the ability to say, oh, they want to go on strike, they can't go on strike. Most bus drivers do anyway. But pilots, as a profession, have the ability, and because they are holding on to certain resources. Today, if pilots go on strike, countries are very frightened because a lot of economy comes to a standstill. A lot of money is generated through flying. A lot of money is generated through transport, air freight, and all this. But then transport hold less resources because at the end of the day, you can argue the bus driver's job is actually very dangerous, right? Imagine the bus driver taking TP student, nightmare. 15, 23, nightmare. Please go in, then nobody goes in. There are blocks everywhere, you can't see anything. Hazard, right? Airplane, nobody blocks your view. Right? Your pilot, nobody blocks your view. Right? So, I mean, you could argue in many ways that in some ways a bus driver's job is more dangerous than a pilot's job. See, yes, of course, the pilot, more complex training and all this. But I think this is where, if you employ the conflict perspective, seeing the fact that different groups who hold resources, different hold certain resources, can fight for their rights and continue to impose certain rights, then they continue to have a high pay. Right? A pilot obviously is fetching 3-4 times more than a bus driver. Okay? Right? And the pilot's got people serving him food. Imagine bus driver, people serving the bus driver food. I don't think so. Right? That's going to happen. Right? But this is an idea that if you